You know that sinking feeling when you see your orchid's buds start to shrivel and fall before they even bloom? It's like waiting for a surprise gift, only to have it vanish right in front of your eyes. Most people think it happens because of bad luck or that it's just part of the plant's natural cycle. But that's not the real story. In fact, there's a hidden reason your orchid is dropping buds, and it's something even experienced gardeners can miss. I've been there too. I once had a Phalaenopsis orchid so full of buds that I was counting the days to see them open, and then one morning, 3 buds had fallen onto the table. It felt like a tiny heartbreak in my greenhouse. But here's where it gets interesting when I finally figured out what caused it and made a small change. My orchids not only kept their buds, they gave me blooms that lasted longer than ever before. So stick with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to stop your orchids from dropping buds and the little trick gardeners never put on the plant label. I still remember the day I decided to find out the real reason behind my orchids losing buds. It wasn't just one plant, it kept happening again and again. I started paying closer attention, almost like a plant detective, watching how the leaves looked, how the air felt around them, and even how the light moved in the room during the day. And here's the surprising thing, it wasn't always about watering too much or too little. The first big tip I learned, and one that made a huge difference, was controlling sudden changes in the orchid's environment. Orchids don't like surprises. A quick drop in temperature, a draft from a nearby door, or even moving the plant from one room to another can make them panic and drop their buds. Think of it like this: if you were just about to settle down for a nap and someone suddenly shook your bed, you wouldn't be happy either. That's how orchids feel when their surroundings change too fast. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Keeping your plant in a steady, comfortable spot is only the beginning. There's another hidden factor that most gardeners completely overlook, and it's one of the main reasons people struggle to stop orchids from dropping buds. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, let's talk about the small daily habit that can actually protect your orchid's blooms before they even open. And here's where I need you to pay extra attention, because this is the moment most orchid owners make a mistake without even knowing it. They see healthy leaves, strong stems, and think, "My orchid's doing fine." But then, almost overnight, the buds start falling. It might be something you're doing out of love that's actually hurting your plant. I used to mist my orchids every single day, thinking I was giving them the spa treatment they deserved. But for some orchids, especially in cooler rooms, constant moisture on the buds can lead to tiny fungal spots or stress, and that can cause them to drop before blooming. Instead, I learned to give humidity in a smarter way using a tray with pebbles and water underneath the pot, so the air stays moist without wetting the buds directly. Think of it as creating a gentle orchid microclimate. But we're not stopping here, because even with perfect humidity and no drafts, there's still another hidden trigger for bud drop that's so sneaky most gardeners don't notice it until it's too late. And once I share it, you'll see exactly why it's almost impossible to stop your orchids from dropping buds unless you fix this one thing first. We'll get into that in just a moment, but before we do, let me show you the small sign on your orchid that acts like an early warning alarm. Now, let's get into the part that completely changed the way I care for orchids, and it might just be the piece you've been missing. You see, the biggest breakthrough for me came when I realized orchids don't just react to water and light, they react to stress in ways we can't always see. One of the sneakiest causes of bud drop is inconsistent watering. And I don't just mean overwatering or underwatering, I'm talking about watering on a totally random schedule. Orchids are creatures of habit. They like knowing what to expect. When I switched to a consistent routine, checking the roots before each watering instead of guessing, my plants rewarded me with stronger buds that actually stayed on the stem. Here's another thing: feeding orchids at the wrong time can also backfire. If you give them strong fertilizer right when buds are forming, you might accidentally burn the tender tips. I learned to use a gentle, diluted orchid feed during active growth, but to back off when buds are almost ready to open. And here's a little personal insight: I talk to my orchids when I check them. I know it sounds funny, but slowing down and really looking at each plant made me notice early warning signs I used to miss, like a slight yellowing at the base of a bud. Catching these early means you can step in before it's too late. But here's the part that really surprised me. Even with perfect watering, feeding, and light, I still had a plant drop every single bud one winter. That's when I discovered a hidden environmental factor that no one told me about, and fixing it instantly solved the problem. In just a moment, I'll share what it was and why not knowing this one thing can undo all the other work you've done to stop your orchids from dropping buds. And honestly, the one that made me rethink everything I thought I knew about orchids. Remember that winter when I told you I lost every single bud, even though I was doing everything right? The secret was hiding in plain sight. It was the air itself. Cold, dry air from a nearby heating vent was blowing across the plant at night, stressing it so much that the buds simply gave up. I had never considered that my cozy home in winter could feel like a desert storm to my orchid. The fix? I moved the plant just a few feet away from the vent, added a small humidity tray, and within weeks, the new buds stayed firm and healthy. The lesson here is simple. Even if you water perfectly and give the right light, environmental stress can undo all your hard work. And here's the kicker. There's one final habit I've developed that has almost completely stopped my orchids from dropping buds. And it's so simple you might overlook it. I'll share that in the final part because it's the easiest step of all, yet it brings the most reward. So here's that final, simple habit. I promised you, and it might be the easiest way to stop your orchids from dropping buds. Every time you check your orchid, give it a quick micro-inspection. Not just the flowers, but the leaves, the roots you can see through the pot, and especially the buds. If you notice even the smallest sign of change, a wrinkle on a bud, a yellow tip on a leaf, or roots that look too dry, you can act right away. This habit only takes a minute, but it's the difference between losing buds and enjoying a full bloom. And here's the motivation: orchids reward consistency more than perfection. You don't have to be an expert or have a greenhouse full of plants. If you give your orchids steady conditions, gentle care, and attention before problems get big, it will surprise you with blooms that last for months. I've seen orchids bounce back from the edge just because someone noticed a tiny change early. So as you walk past your plant tomorrow, stop for a second. Look closer. That one small check might save every single bud. And when they open, you'll know you didn't just get lucky, you learned the secret most gardeners never talk about, and you used it to keep your orchid thriving.